the producer Lars Lindström.
Comments? Questions? Yoinks? Right there.
Congratulations. The film was really beautiful, very moving. Thank you for bringing it to us. My question is that how long did it take you to shoot this, and how did you cast, the family?
Question was, how long was the process in making the film? I guess from shooting and script writing and as well, maybe. And how did you find the family?
Right. Well, we shot the part that takes place today. We shot that as a pilot the year before for 10 days, and then we did the last scene last year, and then the rest of the film that takes place in the 30s with another cast, and we shot for 33 days, yeah. Lene Cecilia Sparrok and her real sister plays her younger sister. Well, I started the casting process 2 years before shooting because I wanted to make the film in South Sami, which is a very threatened language. Also pinpointed by the UN because of this, because there's only 500 fluent speakers. And of course there are many more South Sami people, but because of our history, most people don't speak the language fluently today. So I've met, I think, almost all teenage girls speaking South Sami fluently. There aren't that many. But many of them were great, so actually there's much more, I could make much more movies in South Sami with another cast as well. And then I wanted 2 sisters preferably, and I wanted them to be able to speak the language fluently, be really good actresses, and be in reindeer herding preferably, because it's yeah, it's quite narrow. It's quite complicated to know how to mark the calves and, capture with the lasso and so on. And also the yoik and all these traditions. I want all that to be right.
Yeah, right there.
Who did she marry?
Who she married?
Who did she
marry? Well, I don't think it was Niklas. It's a good question.
Yeah, at the back there.
The yoik is almost throat singing, but not quite. Can you explain the slight difference between the two?
If you could talk a bit about yoiking, and if it's similar to throat singing.
Well, sort of depends on who does it. This is South Sami yoik, it's called Vulle, and then what you usually call yoik is Lucht, is North Sami. It's a bigger language group, and well, usually you might it depends on the singer or the yoiker. You might use another technique, more throat singing. Which you heard in the end, it's a bit more like that, I guess. Was one of the famous yoikers, and the one at the funeral, he won the Sami Grand Prix, like like Eurovision Song Contest, but Sami won in yoik, traditional yoik.
Next, actually, I wanted to ask, how was it? Have you've seen the film before? What was it like seeing it for the first time?
The first time was in Venezia, and this is my second time to see it. I really don't know how to explain, I'm not quite sure, because I'm used to it, to see myself in big screen. So.
It's her first film.
Wow.
From what I hear, lots of people never get used to it. So many actors. So, Alex, just wave. Yeah.
What's the basis of the script? Is it based on one person's story or many
Good question.
people's stories?
What was the basis for the script? Where did it come from?
Well, I'm from a Sami family, and well, there's a few elders in my family that really don't want nothing to do with Sami people, and they speak quite badly about them. But they are Sami, and I always known that. And Sami was their mother tongue and first language, and they grew up in reindeer herding. And the rest of the family on my father's side is still in reindeer herding. Most of us, not me though. I'm a director. But and then but now some people in this generation in my family and others have changed their names and want nothing to do with their background and has another life and are Swedish. So I always wondered, what happened, because it's a big part of a generation, this generation that is dying now. And I always wanted to know, or wondered if you can become another person, because they've done that, and do you really, or are you still the same somehow? And also what it does to you to cut all ties with your past and your family and your culture. And thinking about this period of time, people in my family and many others' family went to this kind of boarding school when, we had the first state institute of race biology in the world in Sweden, and then inspired the Germans quite a lot with this phrenology and a lot of the books and theories and so on. And they did a lot of exams and naked photographies and so on. They used these schools quite a lot because it was convenient with all these children gathered, so they could try out, blood serums and to show race and all kinds of strange kind of experiments. And well, I always wondered, growing up in that time, what would you do to you as a person, sort of knowing that you would be in a lower standing race, or like on a lower level of evolution. So I started interviewing older people in my family and a lot of others. So I want all the details to be right, but then I wanted artistic freedom as well to do the scenes I wanted to do. It had to do with the themes I wanted to explore, but I wanted, the songs they're singing are these songs, and the instrument they're using are the real instruments from the State Institute of Race Biology, and read their German book on how to measure people's heads. And so, it hasn't been made a film in this Sami language before, except the pilot. And so I feel a great responsibility to my family and the rest of us to get the details right, even though it's fiction, and of course inspired by a lot of stories I grew up with and a lot of people's stories.
Right there.
Congratulations, I really enjoyed the movie. I lived in Sweden, but in Karlskrona, so very, very far from there. How was the film received in Sweden? Because it's different. You're here in Canada, and I think for us